It's one of the oldest rules in the book: never mix business with friendship. But when you're talking about the two most famous men on the planet, the stakes aren't just a few dollars, they're legacies. In the early 1980s, Michael Jackson and Paul McCartney weren't just collaborators, they were close friends. They shared meals, shared secrets, and shared the top of the charts. But one casual dinner conversation, a bit of friendly advice, from an elder statesman to a rising king, would spark a betrayal that ended their friendship forever. It was a $47 million move that turned into a $1 billion empire. This is the story of how Michael Jackson outsmarted his mentor, bought the rug Paul McCartney was standing on, and uttered the four coldest words in music history: "It's just business, Paul." The story begins with a ring. Paul McCartney was at home when the phone rang. On the other end was a voice he recognized instantly, high-pitched, soft, but filled with a new kind of ambition. It was Michael Jackson. Michael told Paul, "I want to make hits." He didn't just want to be a star, he wanted to be the star. Paul, who had already survived the madness of Beatlemania and built a second empire with wings, was impressed. He invited Michael to London. For a few years they were inseparable. They recorded The Girl Is Mine for the Thriller album and Say 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 for Paul's Pipes of Peace. They were the ultimate power duo. Michael even stayed at Paul's house, bonding with Paul's wife, Linda, and their children. During these sessions, Paul took Michael under his wing. He saw a young man who was incredibly talented, but perhaps a bit naive about the sharks in the music industry. So, Paul decided to give him a gift: the secret to long-term wealth. One night, Paul brought out a massive notebook. It was a list of every song he owned the publishing rights to. He told Michael, "This is how you make the real money. You've got to own the publishing." To understand why this was so important, you have to understand the Beatles' trauma. When the Beatles were young, they signed a predatory contract that gave away the rights to their songs to a company called Northern Songs. By the time they realized what had happened, it was too late. Paul McCartney, the man who wrote Yesterday and Let It Be, didn't actually own them. He had to pay a fee just to play his own songs. Paul told Michael, "Every time someone plays these songs on the radio, I get paid. Every time they're in a movie, I get paid." Michael's eyes lit up. He started asking detailed questions. How do you buy them? Who sells them? How do you know what they're worth? Then, Michael looked Paul in the eye and said something that everyone thought was a joke. "I'm going to buy your songs, Paul." Paul laughed. He thought Michael was just being a cheeky kid. He didn't realize that Michael Jackson didn't tell jokes about money. While Paul was busy touring, Michael was studying. He wasn't just the gloved one anymore. He was a student of the industry. He hired a high-powered attorney named John Branca and gave him a mission: find me the best catalog in the world. Branca came back with news. The ATV music catalog was for sale. This wasn't just any catalog. It owned the rights to nearly 250 Lennon-McCartney songs. The owner was an Australian billionaire named Robert Holmes Acorte. He wanted $30 million to start. Branca did the right thing. He called Paul McCartney's team first. He asked, "Michael is interested, but do you want to bid?" Paul was hesitant. He didn't want to pay $30 million for songs he felt he already owned in his heart. He tried to team up with Yoko Ono to buy them back, but the negotiations were messy and slow. Michael, however, didn't hesitate. He told his team, "Buy it at all cost." When his advisors told him $50 million was too much, Michael gave the legendary response, "If you have $50 million in your bank account, you can give me advice. If not, buy the songs." On August 14, 1985, the deal was done. Michael Jackson was now the legal owner of Hey Jude, Yesterday, and Let It Be. Paul McCartney found out through the press. He was devastated. He felt that Michael had used the very advice Paul gave him to stab him in the back. Paul called Michael, expecting his friend to say, "Don't worry, I bought them to keep them safe for you." Instead, he got a cold, professional wall. When Paul asked if he could buy his songs back, even offering a profit, Michael didn't budge. He reportedly told Paul, "It's just business, Paul." The betrayal went deeper than just ownership. Paul had spent his whole career protecting the Beatles' legacy from being cheapened. He never wanted their songs in commercials, but Michael saw the songs as assets. In 1987, Michael licensed Revolution to Nike for a sneaker ad. For Paul, this was the final straw. Watching his revolutionary anthem used to sell shoes, under the permission of his friend, was a wound that wouldn't heal. The two men never spoke again. The friendship that gave us Say was dead. Was it a betrayal? Or was it just the ultimate boss move? Interestingly, Michael Jackson was known for his extreme generosity to other artists. He famously bought the rights to Little Richard's music and gave them back to him for free because he felt the legend had been cheated. But with Paul, he remained a shark. Perhaps it was because Michael saw Paul as a peer, as competition. By owning the Beatles, Michael didn't just have money, he had power over the greatest musical legacy of the 20th century. The financial irony is staggering. Michael bought the catalog for roughly $47.5 million. In 1995, he sold half of it to Sony for $95 million. After his death in 2009, the estate eventually sold the rest for approximately $750 million. All told, that $47 million investment grew to over $1 billion. As for Paul, he eventually got his revenge through the law. Under the U.S. Copyright Act, songwriters can reclaim their rights after 35 years. Starting in 2018, Paul began the process of taking his songs back, one by one. In the end, Michael Jackson proved he was a business genius, but at the cost of his most prestigious friendship. Paul McCartney got his songs back, but he lost a brother in the process. It serves as a haunting reminder. In the world of high-stakes music, you can have the hits, the fame, and the money, but sometimes you can't have the friend.